check or anything? You want me to talk? No, we're good? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Please make your way to a seat this morning. Come on down. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. It's good to see you all. Good morning to everybody joining us on the live stream this morning. Hope you're having a beautiful Sunday so far. For those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Alex Koliitsi. I am the Director of Music here at UU Miami. Anybody on the live stream who is joining us, please feel free to get a candle or a chalice that you can light with us this morning when we light the chalice a little bit later in our service. Our first hymn this morning is out of the gray hymnal. It is number 323, Break Not the Circle. Please feel free to stand in body or spirit and join in the singing. The words will be projected right here next to me. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
All right. Hola, how you doing there? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Well, welcome. Yes, good morning to you too. Welcome to our multi-platform space here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami, or as we affectionately call it, UU Miami. As a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, we bring a liberal religious voice to the great city of Miami. Now, I wanted to mention before I move too much further into the service today that tomorrow is Indigenous Peoples Day. And in that spirit, I let that guide me as I worked on the service today. But I ask you to think about how you might affirm Indigenous Peoples Day in your life. If you're unsure, let's talk about it. I am, by the way, Reverend Tom Capo, the minister here at UU Miami. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am a older white male. I'm wearing a tie that has Egyptian hieroglyphics on it this morning, and a white stole. And up on the chancel with me is Joseph Toledo, our accomplished pianist, and you met Alex Koliitsi, our music director, earlier today. She's going to lead us in some hymns, as you said, and she's also going to offer us some special music. UU Miami wants to acknowledge that we gather on the traditional lands of the Tequesta, Seminole, and Miccosukee people, and we honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it for generations. May we learn to be better stewards of the land that we now inhabit. You know, I read that, every Sunday morning. And one of the questions that came up this week on our YouTube page, not our YouTube page, our Facebook page was, so what does that mean? What does that mean for us? What do we do if we affirm, the traditional lands, if we acknowledge this? Well, that's a really excellent question, and one that I think it would be wise for us to spend some time on. I don't have an answer. I have thoughts, but it's a discussion that I think maybe we as a community might want to have. UU Miami is a community of brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We invite you to learn more about us. You can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram, our LinkedIn, our webpage, or you could talk to somebody face to face. We have people here, some with yellow lanyards on. You could talk to them, or me, or you could also email me at minister@uumiami.org. At the beginning of our service, we say our affirmation, which affirms some of the things that we believe and hold true, hold a value. So if you'll join me in saying our affirmation this morning, first in English and then in Spanish. Ready? Love is the spirit of this faith, and service is its prayer. In love we agree to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another. Joseph, please.
El amor es el espíritu de nuestra fe y el servicio es su oración. En amor acordamos vivir unidos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad y ayudarnos el uno al otro.
It is custom in Unitarian Universalist congregations to begin our time together with the lighting of the chalice, a symbol of our religious tradition. Our chalice reading this morning is by Unitarian Universalist Reverend Scott Taylor. We gather as a house of stories, as a shelter shot through with memories that speak, that long for us to listen, without which we easily lose our way. As we learn of those who have gone before, the way in front of us becomes more clear. As we remember what they survived, what they sacrificed for the faceless us who would come after, we find courage far beyond what we could muster on our own. Beneath this seemingly worn-out world, there are wells from which we can drink. Come, let our thirst guide us there. Come, let those sweet ghosts whisper their gifts. We'll now take this time to sing the youth out to their RE classes. Jessica is at the back. Even if you're new, you are welcome to go to the back with Jessica and join in the children and teens. If you know the song, sing along. Feel free to turn around and face the youth as they leave. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
Each Sunday we make a little time in our service to share joys and sorrows that are on our hearts. We share our joys so this community can be happy with us, and our sorrows so that we may walk with you in your grief or sadness. As you come up this morning to share, please say your name so that we know who you are as you share. And before you come up, Bob, I'd like to take a moment to just hold in our hearts those people in Israel today. It certainly came as a surprise to, I think, everybody in the world that there was such violence going on. And so many people here in Miami are impacted. So if we could take a moment and just hold in our hearts love and caring, concern for those people in Israel and what they're going through. Amen.
Good morning, I'm Bob Jacober. I'm the punk poet, so I'll read my punk poetry. I enjoy UU Miami Sunday morning worship here. We invite many different speakers to teach us, have no fear. We think and act a little different from some of you, but we wish to still be friends, then tell this to all of you. From me, I'm glad you take the time to tell us who you are, and for this, we are all grateful for us here. To me, you're all a star.
Hi, I'm Michael Ray. I live in Fort Lauderdale. I was a UU here in high school 55 years ago. And yeah, my concern is, since I moved to Fort Lauderdale, I live next to the executive airport. And you may not know, the little airports all around the country, ours is 18th in the nation for lead emission. They drop 1,000 pounds a year. And it's terrible for everybody, especially children, causing all kinds of brain damage, cancers, lower IQ. Anyway, the city didn't seem to know anything about it, even though they own the airport. And so I live in this little community, 160 houses, and I drafted a resolution for our homeowners to send to the city to ask them to do a study of the lead in the water, the air, and the soil at the airport and in our neighborhood. 2 months ago, they've ignored our resolution. Finally, they had a meeting, and they're only going to test the air at the airport and not the water and the soil or not anywhere else. So we went to the commission meeting, we objected to that, and we keep sending them emails, and they've ignored our resolution. But anyway, I'm still fighting it. But you all should know that all these airports like Tamiami, if you live near there within 8 blocks, the science shows, you're getting dumped on with this lead, and it doesn't go away. It stays there forever. If you know anybody that lives near airports, you might tell them about it. This just came out in July in an article in the Sun Sentinel, and this reporter has written about 4 stories since, and the homeowners keep sending stuff to the city, and we keep sending it to her, and then she keeps writing more stories. So you can see how people, like Margaret Mead said, even one person can cause an avalanche.
My name is Arthur. My thing wouldn't stick on, so I had to stick it to my undershirt. So, yeah. I live in Miami. I live in Brickell. I wanted to share a joy. My wife's green card finally got approved after almost 2.5 years of waiting. So we're really happy and excited that we get to stay together again. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hayes, and I want to share a joy that this congregation
make space for its members, Bob in particular, who, in spite of, it being a time of sharing joys and concerns, it's your greatest joy to write poetry for us and speak it to us, and it's one of my greatest joys to see you do it whenever I'm here every week, and I'm grateful that we accept each of us who we are and make space for that. They haven't thrown you out yet.
For all those joys and sorrows expressed and those not expressed, they are a blessing to our hearts. That was fabulous. Anyway, I'm going to tell a story. But I don't want to tell it by myself. So I'm going to ask you all to help me with it. But before we tell the story, I want to say a couple of words. One of the ways our ancestors passed on wisdom was through stories. We honor their wisdom and reflect on what it had to teach us about the world. And so it's easy sometimes when we hear some of the ancient stories to dismiss them because, well, they're 1,000 years ago. Or maybe there was something supernatural that happened in the story, and maybe that, think maybe that's not hasn't have anything to teach me in this, secular, scientific, rational world. But here's the thing. Unitarian Universalism calls us to be part of the interconnected web of all existence, which I believe includes all people, including our ancestors. And the stories have been passed down through generations in Asia and Europe, Africa, the Americas. Really, the whole world can be thought of as wisdom tales of our human ancestors. So if we suspend our easily knee-jerk dismissiveness for a few moments, we may find that these stories are ways for us to explore our own actions, beliefs, attitudes, and values. So I chose a story from the Maori people of New Zealand. I ask you to consider what this story offers to you in your life in this postmodern world. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to ask you to participate. So I need a slide. There we go. So here are your cues. When you hear whispered and complained, I ask you, whisper and complain. Try that out. Whisper. Whisper and complain. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask her. Okay, next one. When you hear plotted and planned. All right, let's hear plotting and planning. Plotting and planning. Oh, okay. All right, let's try groaning. Like, you're pushing something, you're trying to get it. Groan, come on. That's right. And when it finally makes it, snap. Or, okay? Leapt and celebrate. Woo! There we go. My last ones didn't get on there. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more. You're going to have to remember these. Rain. It's on there? I can't see it with the, okay. So I got to glare. Rain. So you can do like this. Okay. And lastly, I can't see with the glare. Anger. Okay. All right. So you got it? Those are the pieces. So listen for those words, okay? In the time before time, there was nothing. Not a thing. Who knows how it happened? Whether it was caused by a spark or a shudder or a breath of wind, but suddenly the moon rose, the sun shone, and the Papuni, the Earth Mother, and Rangi, the Sky Father, were revealed. The attraction between Earth Mother and Sky Father was magnetic. Nothing else existed for them. They fell into an embrace that was so close and went on so long that they had 70 children. Somebody say, ouch. They continued to lay in this embrace so close that their children, those children gods, dwelt in darkness, and they had no room to move or play or grow. The children gods felt suffocated without space and light. They whispered and complained. And they plotted and planned. You need the slide? Okay. No. Okay. The child god of war shouted, "Kill Papuni and Rangi!" But 69 siblings shouted, "No!" But they continued to plot and plan. Finally, Tane, the god of forests, spoke. "Let's push our mother and father apart." 68 siblings shouted, "Yes, let's do it!" But the child god of storms raged. Okay. But the others ignored them and proceeded with the plan. The child god of edible plants groaned and pushed up against Father Sky with all their might, but he could not budge Rangi. The god of fern roots and wild berries groaned and pushed up against Father Sky with all their might, but they could not budge Rangi. The child god of humans groaned and pushed, but also failed. The child god of fish and reptiles groaned and pushed, but was unsuccessful. And so it went on, one child after another, unable to separate Mother Earth and Father Sky. They turned to Tane and they said, this is a great idea, but it's not doing it. It's impossible. We can't seem to make the change happen. We're still stuck. So Tane laid up against Earth Mother and pushed up and braced himself against Earth Mother and pushed and groaned, and with their shoulders and arms and strength groaned and pushed until snap! The mother and father separated. Tane and the 69, or maybe 68, siblings leapt up and celebrated. Woohoo! They had space. They could move around. Sky Father floated high above his wife, full of sorrow, with tears of rain, which makes Earth Mother now more beautiful than ever. Earth Mother responding by sending mist skyward. Meanwhile, the gods began to grow. These child gods began to grow, and they busied themselves with the work of creating the world. Each god did their own thing. Tane decorated Earth Mother with trees and plants in all shapes and sizes. Everybody did their part. They even searched out sparks of light and threw them into the heavens and decorated Sky Father with stars. The god of storms joined their father in the upper realms and lives there still. And the god of storms continues to rage. Well, that's how it is with some people, And their rage undoes some of the work of the other gods. But Tane and the other gods go on creating and tending to Earth Mother and all that dwells there. Thank you for your participation in our story.
That was a solid A+, everybody. That was good. For those of you who are watching our service online this morning, I invite you to take out your smartphone, open up the camera app, and point it at the QR code you see on your screen. Those of you in the sanctuary are welcome to do that as well for our offering. It will open to the UU Miami donation page, or you can go to uumiami.org and click on the donation button you see on our homepage. Please check if the donation is a part of your pledge to the church or is a one-time donation for us to allocate your funds properly. Those of you who are present in the sanctuary, there will also be a basket passed around for your donation this morning. Today, you'll have the opportunity to not only donate to this congregation, but also to Chainless Change. Chainless Change serves those impacted by criminal justice involvement by offering basic resources, advocacy, peer support, mentorship, workforce development, housing, educational and vocational training, and scholarships. They are committed to reducing recidivism and strengthening the fabric of society through advocacy and support for individuals and families who are negatively impacted by the criminal justice system. This congregation is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place and the work we do in our community and in the world, for we are now the keepers of the dream.
Well, we're going to move into our time of prayer or meditation. And I wanted to let you know that I really like this poem that I'm going to read for us for this time. So I put it on the back of your order of service, so in case you want to read it later and take a look at it, you can take it home with you. It is a poem called Remember the Sky by Joy Harrow. Joy is an internationally renowned performer and writer of the Muskogee Nation. She served 3 terms as the 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States from 2019 to 2022. All right. So I invite you now into a place of prayer or meditation. Each of us has our own way to enter that space. You might sit up straight and take a deep breath. You might let your eyelids rest or close. And turn your attention within yourself. Open to the stirrings of the Spirit that you might experience. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and of her mother's and of hers. Remember your father. He is your life too. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animals, life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of the universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe. And this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember the dance language. That life is. Remember. Blessed be.
Our special music this morning is written by Unitarian Universalist composer Jim Scott, who has composed a lot of our hymns, and I'd love to read the first verse for you. We are one in the song, the harmony of being, from the earth, rhythm of our living, all-knowing and all-seeing. May the melody run free above hatred, may it rise, resounding testimony of the ancient and the wise. We are one in the song, the harmony of being, from the earth, rhythm for our living, all-knowing and all-seeing. May the melody run free, above hatred may it rise, resounding testimony of the ancient and the wise, the ancient and the wise. May the sound of one voice bring down the walls of nations, and a peace drawn of sacred purpose enrich all our relations. May compassion guide our way, may we honor and rejoice, a chorus of humanity, all singing with one voice, all singing with one voice, all singing with one voice.
Yeah, such great music. I'm just, I have to come up here after all that great music, so y'all just have to bear with me. How many of you have taken a DNA test? Anybody else taken a DNA test? Yeah. I took one a few years ago. Martha gave it to me for Christmas. Kind of an unusual gift, I guess, DNA test. But anyway, the results showed that I was mostly Northern European, 81.4%, with British and Irish, 69.3%, with broadly Northwestern European, about 10%, and Ashkenazi Jew, about 10%, with small amounts of American indigenous and other backgrounds. Here's the thing. When Martha and I first talked about these results, the Jewish heritage stood out. And Martha wondered aloud if I felt any connection to that heritage. Well, I didn't particularly. I was culturally raised Catholic. And she asked me, do you want to learn more about your Jewish heritage or honor your Jewish ancestors or traditions or holy days? And I have to say I was unsure. I don't know if any of you have taken time to look over these kind of tests, maybe been surprised like I was and Martha was by some of the cultural and religious connections. When you look at these DNA tests, you get a general idea of the many races and cultures in your DNA, but you don't really get a complete understanding of who your ancestors really were, or what was important to them, or how they worshiped. not unless those stories have been stewarded across generations to you. So the question I ask today is, how do we honor our ancestors? You know, my mother felt very strongly about our ancestors. And because of that, she did a lot of study. She traced our family history going back generations. She traced my father's history back to small fishing villages on the island of Minorca. This is one of those fishing villages. And her roots include indigenous people. My father's side came to America and stopped here in Florida. There's a lot of Capos here, and in New Orleans. My mother's side of the family, mostly Midwest. I have ancestors who were police officers, flappers, golfers, government administrators, carnies, and a variety of other unnamed. One of my ancestors owned a sideshow with a whale. Apparently, he cut a whale in half and put it on either sides of like a walkway. And so if you paid him, you could walk in between the whale and see its insides. He was I don't know. I'm not sure what to take away from that, what meaning that has in my life today. But I've had wealthy, poor, middle-class ancestors. I've had ancestors who've experienced the full range of physical illness, and some with various mental illnesses and chemical dependencies of one kind or another. I've tried to learn a little bit from my mom about our history. I'm wondering, have some of you done some of that kind of research? Maybe a few, a couple. And wondered what you learned, what meaning you take away from what you've learned. One of the things I became aware of is that there are some unsavory ancestors in my bloodline who I would rather not honor or affirm or explore. We Unitarian Universalists draw wisdom and spiritual grounding from all the world's religions, spiritual traditions, cultures, as well as humanistic thinking, prophetic people, and our own personal experiences. For many of us, our spiritual journey can be as complicated as exploring, affirming, and honoring our ancestors. This is an image of some of the Maori people, you know, from the Maori story I told you earlier, the creation myth that they espouse. Many of us are familiar with the creation myth of the Genesis and the Jewish Bible. And I wonder, how do we make meaning of this ancient creation myth? How might it shed light on some of our ancestors and what was important to them? For the Maori people, their creation myth speaks to a deep connection between humans and the land and the natural world. They value nature, hold it in reverence, and it is central to their spirituality. They manage the environment based on this Maori worldview, that humans are an integral and equal part of nature, and that the people who populated New Zealand have become deeply influenced by this Maori worldview. In New Zealand, there is strong social and political will to preserve the natural environment influenced by this indigenous worldview. Some New Zealanders believe that all aspects of the ecosystem have more, a life force, and damage to Maori through attempts to dominate or extort the land causes the land and its people to lose vitality and energy. I bring this up because the people who populated New Zealand, many of whom are Europeans, embraced the ancestral teachings of the Maori. They make me wonder, can we, each and every human being, at least to some extent, choose them as our ancestors? Would we say that the non-native people of New Zealand appropriated the culture of the Maori? Or instead, would we say that the non-native people of New Zealand embraced this indigenous culture? Sociologists have argued that the Maori pride in their culture and history has made New Zealanders of European descent less assertive and less entitled. I wonder what kind of wisdom we might glean from embracing the Maori. As Unitarian Universalists, do we even need a creation story like the Maori has that provides them such grounding? Some of you might say, no, we don't. Others might say, yes, it would be helpful, useful, grounding. Still others of you might say, I have no idea, and I don't particularly care one way or the other. And guess what? As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, each of those responses is valid. We need not think alike to love alike. UU congregations covenant to support each other in their responsible search for truth and meaning, even when that search leads to points of view that are distinctly different and unrelated to each other. Unitarian Universalism, in its modern form, affirms religious pluralism and grounds itself in values rather than beliefs. UUs really don't have any form of ancestor worship or honoring, and as a rule, we don't generally adhere to certain myths, and certainly not to stories with some supernatural components or creation myths. The closest we come to a shared ancestral experience is the scientific theory of evolution. The theory of evolution, which in and of itself holds no spiritual meaning and offers no values-based purpose or direction. We might find ourselves filled with wonder and awe about evolution and creation, but that's a response that we have to it. The science and the theories are just that, science and theories. As an aside, I want to talk about science and religion a little bit. I would say that science offers us explanations and theories of what is and how things work. Science relies on testable, empirical evidence and observation and reproducible results. Religion or spirituality offers possible answers to life's meaning, purpose, insights into what people hold as important, of value, and of what people refer to as spiritual truth. Not scientific truth, but truth in things like how we treat one another, how we treat the natural world and our planet. Religious or spiritual explorations center around existential questions like whether there's a divine being or an afterlife, or why do people suffer, or why do we die? I don't think science and religion are incompatible. They're simply different ways of understanding the universe and our lives within it. Science doesn't offer us answers about how or why we should or should not honor or hold in reverence our ancestors and their wisdom. There are no shoulds in science. This is the realm of religious or spiritual exploration. So how do we, if we choose to, honor our ancestors without really knowing clearly who they were and what they valued? Do we accept the Western Abrahamic ancestors and their stories? Do we embrace other spiritual ancestors and ancient stories from Eastern or other traditions? Do we put aside ancestors or reframe an ancient story? You know, this is quite common now in our postmodern world. In our postmodern world, Eve has become a hero. Rather than the gullible woman responsible for the fall, Eve is now the one who takes the risk to understand creation in the world and her own sexuality. Eve, like Cain in our Maori myth, chooses no longer to be stagnant or stuck, unable to grow. She wants to become more. Is there anything in that retelling of this ancient Christian myth, this ancient Christian creation story, that could hold meaning for a Unitarian Universalist? So I wonder, who are the ancestors you choose to honor? Who are the ancestors that you'd want to make peace with? You may have ancestors that did do harmful things. Martha tells me that she had slaveholders in her ancestry, and that she still struggles with that. How do you make meaning of those kind of ancestors in your life?